Hello, everyone out there in podcast world. Hope you're having a great day. You're listening to the Service Business Mastery Podcast. I'm your host, Tersh Blissett. On today's episode, we have Chad Sanderson. He is leading sales and marketing teams to success for over 20 years through a proven method and predictable value selling framework. Chad, who has been named a top 5 emerging training leader. That's really cool. Has worked in sales, built teams, achieved targets, both within organizations and as a consultant. He cuts through the outdated theory-based fluff, quotation fluff, so often attributed to sales training, and gets down to the nitty-gritty with raw, no BS perspective to looking at what is working, not working, and where you may have opportunities to drive predictable revenue growth through sales organization. My dyslexia is kicking in something terrible there. It's around lunchtime. I'm starting to get hungry. Welcome to the show, Chad.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So you've done this both within organizations and as a consultant. So you have like it's proven. It's not just like it happened once and you just like one there, but you more than one time.
Yeah, it's not like a blind squirrel finding a nut. It actually, it actually works. I was actually trained in the value selling methodology about 16, 17 years ago now. I actually, believe it or not, started my career in marketing of all things. Oh, cool. And then at one point said, you know what, I feel like the salespeople are getting to solve cooler problems and they're making more money. So I'm going to go try that. Yeah. And was lucky enough to get trained in it. I've used it as a I carry a bag. I'm a 100% commission sales rep now, as well as a consultant. But I used it when I was working for other companies. I used it as I went through my career, became an executive, and we ended up, scaling organizations and selling them. And then three years ago now, jumped the fence and am now working to help other organizations implement this framework.
Cool. So do you find that the marketing and the sales teams, they butt heads with each other? And I feel like the marketers will have great kind of designs, but they're not selling. They got a lot of like feel good stuff. I feel like there's a lot of feel good, like fluffy stuff. And then your salespeople are like, yeah, but that's not selling anything. That's not like closing. That's not going to get us to the close. Do you find that scenario very often?
Absolutely. In fact, it's kind of an age-old challenge, right? How do you get sales and marketing to align, to understand what each is bringing to the table? What we do is work with organizations to help those groups understand where a buyer is in their buying process and how can marketing provide content at different stages that's focused around driving the conversations that sales is having. And so the framework that we use, the value selling framework, is designed. It was designed 23 years ago now, but it is really a communication GPS. So how do I align with someone else internally or with my prospects and customers? How do I uncover their perception of value and then connect what I can uniquely bring to the table to that so that we're both headed in the same direction? And it's more of a buying journey than a selling or a marketing process.
Yeah. And that's like, so my coach, that's one of the things that he really hones in. It sounds like you and my coach are really aligned with each other, which is really cool. So I'm glad we're having this conversation. It's very much, you're not selling. They want a product. They want to buy. The consumer wants to purchase something. So you don't have to sell them anything. I claim myself as a horrible salesperson. And so, but I have my closing rate doesn't reflect that. And a lot of times I find that it's because I'm just offering stuff. And it's more of like a, I don't know. It's not that I don't care, but it's like, okay, these are the numbers. This is the problem that you said you had. Here's the solution to the problem. Take it or leave it. Like, I don't say that exactly, but it's basically like, okay, here it is. This is the solution to your problem. Take it or leave it. And then they're like, okay, cool. I like it. Let's do it. And then I'm like, really? Okay.
Right. And having a framework allows us to be very precise in understanding where we are in that conversation. So if you think about how the human brain works, how it solves problems, right? Everybody has we use the terminology business issue. Everybody has a business issue, which is typically a time-bound, quantifiable thing they need to get done and or resolve, right? And once they have that, whether it's business or it's internal alignment, like I have to get something from marketing to sales or vice versa, they naturally start to think about what are the problems that are getting in the way. And problems are typically related to people, process, or technology. And so they're trying to figure out what are those problems. And when they think they have a complete understanding of the problems, they naturally start to think about, all right, well, what do I want in the ideal solution? And that usually is when somebody seeks a seller out. That's usually when you get a marketing qualified lead, an inbound lead from a website. They've already got this overriding business issue or this compelling event and an understanding of what they believe the problems are. And now they're starting to try and understand what do they want in the ideal solution. And so once that conversation starts, if we use the framework, we're going to capture all of their, problems. We're going to capture their compelling event, but we're going to also then probe into that understanding of the problems to see if we can add additional problems to their view that we know we can uniquely solve. And if we can do that, if we can add problems that we know we can provide capabilities to uniquely address, then we can start to quantify differentiated value. Because by solving those problems that I know we can solve and nobody else can touch, we can provide value that our competition or internal threats or status quo can't provide.
So we're not creating problems that don't exist. It's just problems that we know that's going to come up that they're not really perceptive to, or they haven't experienced this before, so they may not be aware that that's going to happen.
Right, exactly. Okay. We don't want to make anything up. I'm a big believer in integrity and respect for all in any profession. Yeah. But think about it. Think about how fast everybody's moving today. We get all these emails. We get Snapchat. We got Slack. We've got. I
feel like I'm unsubscribing to emails more often than I'm reading emails.
Exactly.
I don't even know how I get on these lists, and I'm just like unsubscribe.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And it results in our brains actually we're moving too fast, and so we forget about things. And so I may have a compelling event, and I have an understanding of what I think the problems are. But when I start talking to somebody who actually lives and breathes in that world day in and day out, we know we're going to understand there are other problems they probably didn't think about. And so we want to highlight those and we want to challenge their thinking, but we do it with questions rather than statements. And so if we could get them to to confirm and say, yes, you know what, I hadn't thought about that, but that's a problem too, right? Like they come to us and say, hey, I have problem A, B, C, and I need a solution. Oh, well, I've been doing this for 20 years. If you have problem B and C, are you finding it difficult to do E and F? Oh, yeah, that's a struggle too. I hadn't even put it together. Oh, great. Well, we've got something we can help you with, right? So it's really asking them to self-discover and doing it inside of a framework that allows us to understand where we are at any given point as the conversation progresses.
I like that. So how many steps are in the framework?
So the thing I love about the value selling framework is it's super simple. It's based on 6 fundamental principles, which are built into, the way the human brain buys, that process I started to walk you through, right? It's kind of how the brain works. And then we bring it to life in one tool. It's called the value prompter. And it's basically designed to allow you to navigate a conversation with each individual involved in a sales process, because everybody's perception and perspective is going to be different. So like if you have a company, you're working with a company and you have an owner and then you have the CFO. And the goal for the organization is, I want to increase revenue 10% this year. The owner is going to be completely focused on that. But the CFO is probably tasked with controlling expenses throughout 2020 to maintain margin.
No.
Right. You can't have any more.
That's your job. If you're CFO, you have to say no to everything first.
The first reaction is always no. But as you get into that, right, as you get into a company and you start talking to people, the owner's perspective is going to be different than the CFO's. And then if you talk to a marketing person, they're going to have different compelling event or business issue and a different view of the problems. And each one of them will probably articulate the value to the organization and to themselves personally differently. And so that value prompter tool allows us to uncover each individual's compelling event, the problems as they see it, and then challenge them on those. The solution as they see it, what is their ideal view of the solution, challenge them on those, and then also help them tell us how they're going to articulate the value understand who else is involved, what we call power, what's the buying process, and then put together a plan, right? A mutual plan to get not to signing a contract or implementing something, but to that point in the future where you start to realize the value that made you buy in the first place. And so that prompter becomes a GPS for the conversation. And it can be used if I'm selling to a prospect. It can be used for marketing, content strategy. It can be used for internal alignment, QBR, readouts.
Nice.
It is extremely flexible. It can be used for account management and upsell. It is, for me, having, at the end of the day, I want to sell. I don't want to spend a lot of time filling out a lot of stuff, but I need something that's going to help make sure I'm the best version of myself every time I'm having a conversation and I'm not missing anything.
So are we using this tool every single time we do something? Like, is it something that can be done quickly, or is this kind of like ideal in a longer term situation, like project type thing? So here's my scenario that I'm thinking about. I go into a house as a service expert, a service technician, and the home has a really dated HVAC system. And it needs to be replaced. Can this tool be used for that process, or is it something that more like an apartment complex needs all of their AC units replaced, and we're going to do that big project?
It could be used. It can be used in both places, and I'll walk you through it and illustrate it for you. I've actually, I probably know more about HVAC than most people in my position because I sold to Ingersoll Rand.
Cool.
So, all right. So I'm a technician and I walk in a house, and typically, not a lot of people wake up in the morning and say, "Hey, I want to buy a new HVAC system." I mean, that stuff's expensive, right? Aside from the car and the house, it's probably the most expensive thing you're going to buy.
Yep.
So chances are the technician got a call. There's a problem, right? There's some type of problem in the house. So from the homeowner's situation, their compelling event, their business issue is they can't get hot water and they've got 2 kids they got to get to school by 8 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's time bound and it's quantifiable. They need to get hot water ASAP. Mm-hmm. So then you just have a conversation. So what other problems did you notice around the system? Well, we noticed, 2 weeks ago that the water temperature was fluctuating. We also noticed that the heater's not kicking on. Maybe there's a thermostat issue. I can't figure out how to work the thermostat. The thing's so complex. It should be speaking to me in Italian or something. And then as a technician, you can say, okay, well, have you also noticed cold spots in the house? Like, is a bedroom colder than, say the living room, or is a stairwell not getting circulated air? Yeah, those are problems too. All right, great. So when, and with the homeowner, I as the technician would say, well, hey, how do you, what do you want? What's optimal? Do you just want the hot water taken care of? Or do you want us to also, since we're here, look at a solution that would potentially get rid of the cold spots in the house and improve your circulation completely? Oh yeah, you know what? Since you're here, let's do that. As long as we can still get the hot water done. Okay, great. So if we could get that done, what impact would it have on you? What would it mean to the family? Well, we wouldn't have to buy as many jackets because if you're sitting in that room over there, it's always cold. Somebody's got more jackets. It would make everybody happier. We're not moving from room to room trying to find the cool spots in the summer and the warm spots in the winter. Great. Okay, great. So is there anybody else? Like, is your wife around, or your husband around, or your partner around? Do they have other concerns, or should we include them in this conversation as well? No, you know what? I can text them right now. They're at work. Okay, great. Awesome. And so here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to do an assessment of the house. I want to walk around, take some temperature measurements. I want to check the equipment outside. I want to check what's in the basement or the crawl space, wherever you have that unit. And then I want to come back to you and I want to sit down and let's talk about what we can do, kind of the costs and the ROI and the impacts they would have in some timelines. Does that sound like a fair plan? That right there is using the value selling framework, because you are using it more as a mindset for a conversation than a tool you have to fill out. Now, in complex sales, if I'm going into a complex sale, if I'm going to that apartment complex situation and I'm talking to the property owner, I may sit down before I go in to talk to that property owner to fill out what we would call a pre-call value prompter, meaning I'm going to think of my questions ahead of time, because I know if they're looking to do all of the units or all the HVAC across the property, I know, because I do this day in and day out, they're going to have some specific problems they're probably not thinking of. Mm-hmm. So I want to make sure I write down my questions in advance to help challenge and expand their view of the problems, to help challenge and expand their view of the optimal solution, as well as challenge ways that they could calculate ROI to understand that we can provide a differentiated solution. So at the end of the day, while I can use it physically, and I do, I mean, I fill out pre-call prompters. I take my notes in a prompter. Actually, I take my notes in a notebook, but I am also coding it to the value prompter.
Mm-hmm.
And then I turn around and that becomes is copy and pasted into a plan letter, a follow-up with the homeowner, the apartment property owner, so that everybody's on the same page and we're aligned. So it is a framework and a mindset as much as it is a methodology and a tool set.
I like that. The whole mindset thing, because I feel like with our organization, and I don't know if you've been seeing me chomping down on these gummy bears, but Sugarly, is that the name of this company? They're not a sponsor. Sugarfina.
Okay.
But each one of these gummy bears, there's 30 milligrams of caffeine per cup of this. So each one of these cups is an espresso shot. A shot of espresso. So these gummies, they're flavored French vanilla or something, iced vanilla latte gummy bears that are caffeine, like coffee. But I don't know why I got a whole case of these things shipped to me, and they're really
nice.
Good. If anybody likes gummy bears and needs some caffeine, Sugarfina, check them out. But anyways, they're not a sponsor. But the whole framework, like your mindset. Creating that mindset change, that mindset shift in the framework is really awesome. We did that internally with our the way we presented offers. So now we're offering 4 options every single call,
right?
Service call, instead of just doing the one bare bones minimum, like this is the Band-Aid, this is what's going to get you up and going,
right?
Because we don't want to make the decision for other people. And as a technician, it was hard for us to wrap our heads around, like, why would I offer all these other things if this is going to solve the problem that they called us for? But what I didn't take into consideration was that there are other, like you said, there's conversation for problem F, G, A, right, all that stuff. And we just assume that they know this stuff, and right, we don't really bring it up to them as the service expert. And we're doing a disservice to them because we're not saying, hey, look, when this capacitor fails, about 30% of the time, the motor fails not long afterwards. Would you like to go ahead and change the motor out now?
Right.
With the capacitor. And, sometimes they'll say yes, sometimes they'll say no, but now they're aware that there is a percentage of time that the motor fails also. And they're prepared for that later on. And when it does happen, it's no longer a callback. They're not irritated with us. We've already pre-warned them.
Right.
And then when they do approve it, then, that's a $600 or $700 ticket versus a $200 ticket. And they keep the stuff on the van. So, they can do it right then. So once we started offering the options like we should, our average ticket price went way through the roof, but our service call, we backed the service calls back down because now they're spending more time on these service calls. So they're only catching 3 calls a day versus catching 10 calls a day.
Right.
And their average ticket price is going up. So now the customer service aspect of it is a whole lot better. The people are a lot happier spending more money with us instead of being there for 30 minutes and spending $500 or whatever.
Right.
We're there for several hours and they're spending, closer to $1,000, and they're happy with that, and it's completely taken care of. So I really like that, and it's a mindset shift. That's what I was getting back to. It's the mindset shift is whenever it started working within our business. As long as it was just me saying, like, preaching to the crowds, like, start offering more options. It never really took effect until it was like they understood the why behind it, and it became a total mindset shift. And I think that if I used this framework, if I had this framework taught to my team, I believe that, we could close more of your higher ticket items than what we're even closing now, because we still fall into the trap of being a technician.
Right.
Like I would fix it myself. Like I wouldn't pay someone else to fix it.
Right.
So it's hard for me to justify spending $10,000 or $15,000 on a system replacement, because I can just replace it myself and have $5,000 or $6,000 tied up in it.
Right.
And our guys are the same exact way. But they don't really understand, or I haven't been able to convey to them 100% that sometimes these people value their time and they don't want to get on YouTube. They don't want to learn how to do this stuff.
So I'm your perfect client, man. I am your perfect client. I can tell you, we were talking before we hit record. I've got a crew of painters that are repainting our house, and we got 3 bids. Now, I'm capable of painting. What I'm not capable of doing is getting a straight line, which drives my OCD nuts. But when we had the bids come out and the contractors come out, the one that I chose was one that took the time to explain to me the difference in the paint sheens, the difference in the way tint impacts the room light. These are all things that I could have gone and figured out on YouTube, but that's not my gig. It's not what I'm going to do. I want to work with an expert, right? I want somebody who I can trust that they're going to give me a job that's going to not only give me a solution that I want, that's going to give me the personal value that I want, which is I want the house to look good. I want it to be painted, but I want to know that I have somebody who has the expertise and the experience, and that's demonstrated by asking some of those questions and bringing up some of those problems that I hadn't even thought about. I mean, we picked colors, and he was like, yeah, are you sure you want to see that type of reflection in the TV screen based on where the TV's put? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's perfect. And so we end up going with, definitely not the lowest bid. And it wasn't the highest, but it was one of the higher ones because of the relationship, because I trusted Javier and his crew based on the way that they'd interacted with us. Same thing's true in any type of services business, right? And I don't, HVAC too. My HVAC goes out, I can figure it out. I got other stuff to do. I want somebody to come in and help me, right? If somebody needs help with sales, or they need help with marketing, or they need help with communication and writing, I'm the guy you call. If I need an HVAC, I am not the guy you call. I'm just not going to be. And so my time, it's that time value of money thing, right? Yeah. It may take me 2 weeks to do an HVAC switch, watching all of the damn YouTube videos. Right. And you guys can do it in 2 days. And then I'm back to a comfortable environment and back to what I know how to do. So I'm 100% with you on that.
Yeah. Cool. If people want to learn more about the framework, use the framework for themselves, how can that happen? How does that work?
So typically just reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can't miss me. It's Chad Sanderson. It's just linkedin.com/Chad Sanderson. You can shoot me an email, chad.sanderson@valueselling.com. Hit the website. There's a bunch of information and webinars and things that are out there, valueselling.com. But typically we don't do public classes. We work with organizations because everything we do is very tailored. We have customers that use this that run call centers where the entire value prompt is used in a 5-minute call versus, people that sell 16, 18, 24 month long types of sales cycles that are extremely complex and everything in between. But we tailor the approach to each of the individuals. Those are probably the 3 easiest ways to track us down.
Okay, so what happens if we have like a smaller organization with maybe like 2 guys in the field ish? Is that going to even work with?
Yeah. We could definitely talk about that. And in that case, then if you've got some partners or other people that we want to bring, ideally what we want is a class of ideally 10. Right. If we could get 10 people, and they don't all have to be salespeople, right? We train a lot of marketing people, executives sit in. I've had CFOs and data scientists sit in, but we have an online course that we have them run through, and that's actually something that teams can access. If somebody wants to, just pay for the online training portion of it, hit me up. I can hook you up with that as well. But our typical implementation is have people go through the online learning. Then we do a 2-day workshop where it's literally focused on live deals and practicing the behavior, practicing the framework, putting it into, starting to, get it into muscle memory. And then we have a bunch of ways that we can help organizations reinforce it. But if somebody's interested and they got a small team, I'm happy to, we work with organizations from 10 people to 10,000. So happy to talk to anybody.
So you have to do that dreaded, get up in front of class and make a fool of yourself. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I got a list of jokes that always hit. I know, and I've had them bomb. I've stood up there and had them bomb too. But I really enjoy being in front of class as much as I am introverted in nature. I like seeing people engaged in the learning process because I'll tell you what, man, the value selling framework changed the course of my life. I've made more money and been more successful because I was lucky enough to be trained at this at a pivotal point in my career. And it's actually helped me be actually, believe it or not, a better role model for some of the small kids. Cause I use the same conversation with the kids. Like, what is it you're trying to accomplish right now? What problems are you trying to get solved? What do you want in an optimal solution? What does it mean to you if we get it done? Right. So it has changed the way I communicate with people. And it's definitely changed the trajectory of my personal success. And so I enjoy seeing people step into it, learn it, and the light bulbs go on.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it. And what was the website again?
Just valueselling.com.
Valueselling.com. Cool. Sweet. I appreciate you coming on the show and everything and sharing everything with all of the audience. And to the audience, I appreciate y'all listening to the podcast episode. But also, right before we get off of here, you also have one more thing, the podcast.
Yes. If you want to, actually, that's probably a good place. You'll actually hear me use the framework in some of the conversations. So I host a podcast called the B2B Revenue Executive Experience. You can find it at b2brevexec.com. And we've been doing it for, about as long as Tersh's been doing it. So there's a bunch of episodes out there, but we talked to a whole bunch of different people from a whole bunch of different professions. And you'll hear me use a very similar conversation format there as well.
Cool, man. I appreciate it. And thank you for everybody listening to the podcast. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out to Chad. He's obviously full of a wealth of knowledge, and check out his podcast for sure. If you have any questions for me, reach out. As always, tersh@icebound.us. That email address is going to change eventually. Hopefully I have it so that it forwards over to my new domain, but it'll be serviceemperor.com. But at some point it will be tersh@serviceemperor.com. But with that being said, thank you again for listening to the podcast. If you found value in this, please share it with your friends, or maybe there's somebody in your area that just really sucks at business and you need them to sell higher ticket prices so that they can be a better competitor for you. Share the podcast with them. And with that being said, thank you again for listening to the Service Business Mastery Podcast, the podcast focused on service business owners, managers, and technicians who are considering becoming business owners themselves. Until we talk again, have a great day. What's up? So one of the questions that I most often get from audience members like yourself is more information about how to learn more about running a business, just in general, the education side of things when it comes to the business world, the service business world. And I'm super excited to be able to share with you the opportunity to go to this awesome event in Las Vegas. If you are ready to take your contracting business to the next level, you got to attend this event. It's called EGIA Contractors University. It's their annual event. It's called Epic 2021. And it's one of the most highly anticipated educational events of the year for home service industry. Epic 2021 will take place over October 28th through 29th at Paris, Las Vegas. If you've never been, which I'm one of them, I'm super excited to go there. And I hear that it's amazing. Just this venue alone is really awesome. So the event is actually going to feature celebrity keynote speakers such as Damon John of Shark Tank, John Taffer of Bar Rescue. I'm sure you've seen the show, at least the previews of it, so you know who these guys are. And then also Captain Sully Sullenberger. He's the airline pilot from The Miracle on the Hudson, which was a really cool movie. If you haven't seen that, check it out. There'll be breakout sessions that are delivered by legendary industry experts, access to best-in-class product and service providers, dynamic networking opportunities, and an unforgettable evening party. You can even come and hang out with us on Media Row as we record Service Business Mastery Live. So if you ever wanted to be on the show, ever want to watch, just come hang out and chill with us on Media Row. You can also get $50 off registration if you use the code TERSH50 at epic2021event.com. Coupon code is TERSH50, and that's spelled TERSH, at epic2021event.com. You definitely do not want to miss this event. I look forward to seeing you there.